Hi, friends. My name is Eli, and you're at another TechSoup Canada webinar. Today, we're going to go and dig into Google Ad Grants. You've got this $10,000 per month sitting around. How do you make use of it? How do you set it up? Great questions all. Luckily, to answer that, we've brought in a pair of experts. So I'm delighted that we've got Davin and Daryl here from AYD Internet Marketing, who are going to help us map out the essential infrastructure from registration of your first converting campaign to boosting visibility and attracting donors. And you're going to get a bit of a checklist as you go through that. So with that, let me pass the baton over to Davin and Daryl, who will give a full intro and give us a good sense of what we're going to be all about today.
Hello, I'm Daryl with AYD Internet Marketing, and this is Davin. And we're looking forward to presenting today and sharing with you how to best make use of your Google Ad grants. I've been in the marketing space for over 15 years, worked with nonprofits in different spaces, and I really like how I can help them make an impact, help more people, and help people find nonprofits that help them also align with what's important to them. Davin here, he's also been in the marketing and sales and grew businesses. And Davin, maybe a little bit about you, and then we'll jump right into it.
For over 10 years, I ran a pressure washing business. Then I went into the digital marketing space. And then from there, I started working with nonprofits, for-profits. So I have a lot of experience all over the place, and I really do enjoy working with nonprofits. It's a really great space.
Awesome. Yeah. So leading into that, Davin here is can you run over what we're going to be covering? And yeah, we'll walk you through step by step what you need to know to properly utilize the $10,000 in-kind ad spend offered by Google.
Of course, in this presentation, we'll be covering what is a Google Ad Grant, the 5-step checklist for Canadian nonprofits to get the Google Ads account running, the minimum foundation requirements to run Google Ads, and strategies for success with the Google Ad Grant's ideal readiness. Next slide, please. So what is a Google Ad Grant? The Google Ad Grant provides $10,000 USD per month of ad spend, or $120,000 USD per year. That's a lot of free money from Google. What does a Google Ad Grant do? It helps promote your mission. It helps attract donors, attract volunteers, increase event participation, and drive traffic to key pages on your website. And this is really important because you need to be shown as a nonprofit. Next slide, please. So here's a 5-step setup checklist. First, you got to confirm your nonprofit eligibility. You got to register with GoodStack. Third step is apply to the Google for Nonprofits. 4, apply for Google Ads Grant account. And then finally, you launch your account and pre-launch compliance. You can go to the next slide. Okay, first step is eligible applicants. To request a Google for Nonprofits account, you must be a nonprofit charitable organization in good standing. Some organizations are not eligible. For example, you can't be a government entity or organization. You can't be a hospital or healthcare organization. You can't be a school or academic institution or university. Google for Education offers a separate program for these schools. In Canada, organizations must be registered as a charity with the Canada Revenue Agency, the CRA, nonprofit entity with tax exemption, and also you must also be a federal nonprofit corporation or provincial nonprofit to be eligible. We can go into the next slide. So the next step is register with GoodStack. The first question is, what is GoodStack? What do they do? GoodStack verifies your information to Google as a liaison. So how does GoodStack actually do this? GoodStack does this by validating your organization's legal status, or charitable status, to unlock the full Google Ad Grant, which is very powerful. And in order to register, as you can see, this is the website, and that's the URL. We can jump to the next slide now. Next, you apply for the Google for Nonprofits. And when you apply for the Google for Nonprofits, you get access to the Google Ad Grant, the YouTube Nonprofits tool, Workspace discounts, Google Workspace for Nonprofits, map credits, and there's other stuff in there too. And then again, in order to get and apply for the Google for Nonprofits, you go through this link here, and then it will go in. Yeah. You can go to the next slide. So I was jumping ahead of myself a little bit. So when you're applying for the Google Ads grant, you apply to the Google for Nonprofits, which is inside the Google for Nonprofits. And you do it through the Google. Yeah, this is oral on the website. Next slide, please. When you do the account activation and pre-launch compliance, Google has a few requirements. A few of them are you need at least 2 ad groups per campaign, 2 minimum ads per ad group. You need quality keywords and conversion tracking set up. And here's just a quick picture of what we look at is when we would set it up for somebody and what we'd fill in. And Daryl from here will be taking the next part.
Okay, let me unmute here. Perfect. Thanks, Davin. Now I'm going to be covering what are the foundations after you've applied for the Google Ad Grant. What do you need to have in place at a higher level? And what does Google require? So you're going to have your foundation, which I'm going to discuss, your conversion process, and how do you make sure you're compliant? So why is this important? Advertising amplifies whatever you're currently doing. And the stronger your foundation, the greater your impact will be when you're doing your marketing efforts. So there's 6 key areas around this, and these are not specifically the Google Ad Grant. These are things that Google looks at and things to consider after, because Google Ad Grants are meant to help you build a long-term, have greater impact. So starting with the minimum standards, first off is your website. You need a clear mission statement, and people need to understand clearly what your programs are. Secondly, with more people using mobile devices, it needs to be mobile friendly, fast to load, and easy to navigate. And when people are on the site, especially if they're coming from Google Ads and your ads are aligned with the website, they need to know where to click and what to do and how you want them to take that action. And on your website as well, Google assesses your SEO. It affects your keyword quality score, which Davin mentioned. So having relevant keywords and content with the keywords and terms and phrases, a clear page structure so Google knows where to send traffic and what's relevant, especially with AI now, sometimes choosing where to send traffic for you. It's very smart about that. And this ties into a higher performing ads. Also, as this was mentioned, but just to recap it, you need to make sure you're a verified nonprofit, registered with the Canada Revenue Agency, and you're approved in Google for Nonprofits. You need to also, and this is more on the ad side, your tracking, you need to make sure you have proper tracking because Google does require 1 meaningful conversion at a minimum per month. There'll be a little more on that. Now to set that up, you use Google Analytics and Google Tag Manager on your website. And these also actually let you track organically as well. So it's worth having this set up as a whole. So what you can do is from here is you want those set up, and then you want to be tracking donations, forms, signups, so you can measure your impact. And it helps you set up and optimize your Google ads as a whole and enables more growth, especially tracking your donations. And this ties in as well. Your donations here will allow you to measure your fundraising impact and connect which campaigns and activities are driving more donations. You'll see them in Google Ads, and you also gain visibility organically. So it's very holistic. And once you have all of this, what really matters, it's your CRM, because you want to know who the people are, and you want to be able to store their donor or supporter information, track their engagement and communications. The reason is to support and nurture long-term relationships, because people don't always donate right away. The goal is to help them know, trust, and align with your cause longer term. A little more on the conversions. What is a meaningful conversion? A conversion must be something that's tangible and measurable and supports your nonprofit's mission while meeting compliance with Google Ads. Some examples: a donation, a volunteer form, a program application, an event registration, a newsletter sign up or a resource, maybe of a white paper. Things that won't count are page views, time on site, scroll depth. These are more for optimizing your overall behind the scenes, but Google wants to see that the right people are engaging and what you're sending traffic to is having the right impact. And as mentioned before, Google requires at least one meaningful conversion per month for account compliance and optimization. You actually need more, ideally, because Google Ads are driven by conversions. With AI and optimization, more is better. These are the minimum. Diving more into what is a compliant website, more from a policy point of view and privacy here, is you need a privacy policy that clearly explains data use and collection. That's very important now to consumers and people visiting your website. Clear contact information so they know who you are, and it helps them validate who you are. And everything on there has to be related to getting volunteers, growing your organization, and having a positive impact. And you can't have misleading claims. Simply be honest, be transparent, and you'll be okay. Google reviews grant accounts carefully, and so if you don't meet this, non-compliant websites can lead to account suspension. Now Davin is going to be discussing strategy analytics and how you can implement these a little more behind the scenes and more in depth.
Thank you, Daryl. As Daryl said, I'll be covering strategy, tracking analytics, CRM and lead handling, and audience. Next slide, please. So the first part, strategies for successful Google Ad Grant. Donation strategy. One would think you just ask someone for a donation and you get money for your organization. It's not quite that easy. And this is where we go into when you're asking for a donation, you should have a strong story that will attract someone to donate because they can relate and see that the person or cause is genuinely making an effort. And this is important because it's when you work very hard for your money, you want to make sure your money is going to a really good cause. And another really good way to do this would be make, for example, a $20 school kit. And when you do this, it shows people where the money is actually going to, and they're way more likely to want to help the cause. Another really strong method, instead of asking for one big donation, is ask for a small donation. And this is effective because it reduces the one big decision barrier. And people are more willing to commit to a small amount than a larger one-time gift. And they're more willing to do that more often, which just actually leads into more donations, which then leads into the awareness strategy. And this is very important. Google Ads is free money, essentially. So you get placed secondary to paying clients. This means if an organization is paying real money for the ads, you're getting placed second. And so in order to combat this, you need to find a really strong story, a niche, a different angle to drive that traffic instead of what everyone's doing, because you're most likely not going to get that traffic. Next, you really, like as I said before, you want to connect to your audience on an emotional level. Because if you them on an emotional level and understand your story, they're way more likely to want to support you. And that is really powerful. And another note, Google Ads is a very powerful tool, but you also do need other forms of social content to help build trust. This is like LinkedIn, Instagram, all these other sources. And a click on Google might lead to a donation from an email newsletter in 6 months or another platform. Next slide, please. Next, I'm going to be talking about analytics and tracking infrastructure. This is really important. It's important because you need to know what is working. And this is where tracking comes in. This is done by Google Analytics and Google Tag Manager. There are other ways you can do this, but for the purpose of this presentation, I'm just going to stick to Google Analytics and Tag Manager. And why does this matter? You need to clearly understand what's driving donations and support. Without tracking, you're making decisions blindly. And making blind decisions does not work very well. What does this enable? You see exactly where donors are coming from. You understand which campaigns are working, and you identify where opportunities are being lost. So for all this to occur, what must be in place? Conversion tracking. Conversion tracking is for donations, form submissions, key actions. And when you have this in place, you're able to find out where are people actually connecting to your story? What is actually working? Clear attribution. You need to know which channel are driving results. And this is all where this all comes together. And across all your platforms, you need consistent tracking across all campaigns. Next, I'll be covering CRM and lead handling systems. I'd have to say this is one of the most important parts of a nonprofit, and you need a lot of attention on this. And the reason is because down the road, setting up a new CRM is a lot of work. And you don't want to be setting up a new one after you just picked one, because you have to put all your new information in, swap information around. It's a lot of work. So here are a few key things to consider in a CRM. Donor lifecycle tracking, donation management and reporting, marketing integration, segmentation and personalization, automation, scalability and flexibility, use of use, and cost structure. These are just a bunch of examples, and you really have to dig in your nonprofit to figure out what works for you and which plan will help you grow. And this will help you because if tomorrow you had 40% more applicants, could your team handle it? Next slide, please. The next part is audience. In order to help more people, you need to know your audience to get more people to volunteer, to donate, and reach the people needing assistance. This is super important that you reach the people you want to reach. So you have to ask yourself a few questions. Who exactly are you trying to reach? What are they searching? What problem are they trying to solve? What motivates them to act? And so when you put your grant together, it performs best when you have your persona lead to keywords, which then they go to landing page, to conversion, and they're all tightly aligned. And this is where Daryl's going to take over.
Okay, I'm muted. Okay, so this is where I'm going to be taking over and discussing, are you growth ready? So we've covered what you need to do to get the Google Ad grant and how to optimize at a high level the strategy, how to make sure it works long term. There are questions you can ask yourself, though, as a whole, holistically. Do you have the capacity to support increased inquiries or demand? Is your intake or inquiry process clear and easy for people to use? Do you have a consistent process for following up with those who reach out? And who is responsible for maintaining your data? Preparing these elements helps ensure that increased awareness turns into real support, stronger relationships, and greater impact. I'm going to go back and forward here for a second because I'm seeing my taskbar. I want to make sure everyone sees this. So these aren't just about ads. These are, as an organization, they're good questions to ask. And breaking it all down, simplifying it, you have the grant ready checklist. And we have other checklists and resources as well, which we can discuss in the chat. For this, specifically to this presentation, you've got 8 steps. 1, website optimized with the meaningful conversion actions, with meaningful conversion action set up, good on-page SEO, and a good user experience. Your tracking is set up and your analytics are in place. So that way you can see what's working and what isn't. Your CRM and intake systems are good to go. Your good stack is validated. You've applied for the Google for Nonprofits account. You've applied and you now have access to your Google Ad Grant account. You've set up your ads and conversion tracking, and then you launch. So overall, there's a lot of planning involved. However, if you do all of these things, you will get the most out of your $10,000 because it's a long-term game. If you have any questions, here's our information. It's also in the chat. And here's our contact information.
Thank you so much, Davin and Daryl, for giving us a good sense of just like how do we set ourselves up for success within Google Ad Grants. Everyone, this is your moment to pick the brains of an expert. So throw a question into the chat, just boom, right there into the text field. In the meantime, I'll sort of start off on behalf of Mohammed, who had to leave, which is to say, like, how long should this approval process typically take, and is there a way to, or person to poke to speed it up?
So I'll start and Davin may jump in after, and we'll end. So when it comes to speeding it up, the first rule is any documentation they ask for, have it set up as thoroughly as possible. And if you can present, that's the first step. And we've seen it take anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks up to 3 months, depending how complex it is. But really, it should be no less. And we've seen it. If you, with the right guidance, you can have it in less than 3 months, but it really varies. It's up to Google. And they'll let you know. Being prepared, if you know what you're doing. Yeah, I wish I could say it's going to be 2 weeks or it's going to be 3 months guaranteed. But I'd say if you 2 to 3 weeks is your minimum. No, that's the better answer. A safe one is your minimum, and it may go longer. What do you thought?
Well, that's great context setting to basically say, okay, I have a campaign that starts next week. This is not the right thing to do. These timelines are different timelines. I'll need to proceed without Google Ad Grants for that particular campaign.
I'd like to put a note in there too. With the Google Ad Grant, it's a long-term campaign, which was mentioned, meaning when you do start it, you do need to grow it over about 6 months, find your traffic, because as I did mention, you are placed secondary to paid ads. So don't expect results within 6 months. You'll slowly get them. And over the next few years, as you really dial your campaigns in, it will become way more successful.
And if I may add something, I thought of some. When I answered, I may have answered the wrong question. Are we talking about actually getting everything set up and having your access to the Google Ad Grant ad account itself, or actually launching the campaigns?
This is referring specifically to the grant application.
Okay, yeah. So I want to make sure I answered the right question. Okay, good. Yeah, what Davin says is true too. A Google campaign, which he's correct, once you have things dialed in, if you know what you're doing, it can be a little quicker, but most campaigns you have to factor in a 1 to 2 week learning time once you're still up and running with a new Google ad campaign, even just to be safe. So there is advanced planning. Okay, I'm looking at questions here.
Go ahead.
I see from Latanya. Is there anyone? I think that's the 2 questions. Are there any other that I'm missing?
No, go ahead.
Okay. So once you have been approved, What do I do next? I would continue with the checklist to make sure I have everything set up. Correct. Yes, this entire process is documented by Google. And if ever in doubt, what we do on behalf of our client, we reference official Google documentation because it changes, compliance changes. So ultimately, with the Google Ad Grant program, once you're follow the checklist, follow what Google says, and either you can Google it or look it up yourself, or we can also support you as well.
Okay, perfect. Okay. That answers it. And then once I get all of that set, then I have to look at launching the campaign because that's separate, correct?
Davin, you should jump in on this one. Go ahead.
Yeah, so there's multiple steps. So once you do launch a campaign and everything, so what we can actually do is if you have a few more questions is you can book a call with us completely free and we could go into more steps with you.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, I see someone raise their hand. Oh, hello.
Hi there. This is really interesting. I put my hands up, and yes, I'm not with a nonprofit, but I have 20 years experience. And of course, I'm in quite a few nonprofit groups on Facebook and WhatsApp groups and other places, Circle. And that's a really good breakdown. And I think many people come to Google Ad Grants the wrong way. And I wonder if they've actually figured out what you just said there, that this is serious stuff. Comments that I see quite often are, we tried it, it didn't work. It was difficult. I will say this, that some people say it was really hard to even get past the stack. And these are working, running nonprofits in the UK. And one thing I think many of them then turn, because they don't have a supportive pipeline. So it's even hard for them they keep going out for grants. It's almost a startup that doesn't want to speak to its customers, but keeps applying for funding because they're too afraid to go and speak to the people who might need to buy their product. And you have this situation where, oh, no one supports us, but we've built a school in X country, we've done this work. Well, okay. So here is a really interesting presentation that you've done. The people need to come at it in a different angle. Now, the grant is monthly. It's over a year. I like what Devin said, that this is a long-term relationship with Google. They want you to succeed, but you do need to start working through things. And I wonder, and some of these organizations I'm talking about within the 150,000 US to $500,000 US, but they're basically funded through a lot of grants, overseas aid, for example. When they talk about Google Ad Grants or the people that they approach to help them run these things, I don't think they're coming to them in the right way. This is a long-term thing. You need to talk about campaigns. You need to see this as an alternative or at least another layer to the grants you are getting and start telling your story. Is that something you've encountered where people just say, oh, it didn't work for us? No one converted, if you want to know what I mean.
And that's all correct. Larger, depending on the size of your nonprofits. So I'll start with it. I read an article. It was actually on Search Engine Journal. They run paid. And they actually said running paid YouTube and donation ads actually has a return. Longer term, relying strictly on in-kind money, you should be using it. But because you lose of the rules and you are secondary, if you truly hit a point, you do need investors and you show the strategy, which that's a different discussion. Maybe we touched lightly on, I'll talk about that one a little bit after this, is you combine it with a paid Google ad account. And now you have 10,000 on something that's not as competitive because you should, and you combine that. And now you have a more comprehensive strategy. And in there, you even consider stuff like Meta. Maybe it's Instagram. Right. There is room for your own ad spend, even on social, for awareness. This is a great stepping stone, every nonprofit should run. However, you do need to do more after that at a point. It does have, I agree with you.
And I think you're right that a lot of them don't know how to do the storytelling. So this whole starting point starts to crash. Just for, you know, over the last 5 years or so, I've heard, I'm paraphrasing, 2 or 3 different examples where people did use Google Ads. And the tragedy of it, this was, and I'm paraphrasing this, and I'm just going to try and put it in one line. We went down the Google Ads road. We think more people became aware of our organization. However, we got swamped for people needing our services, but no one converted. People say, "Oh, God, you exist." Okay, yeah. They had that, but then they weren't converting. And what they were getting is actually people, which they should have used, actually thinking back, and say, "Hey, look, since we went on Google Ads, lots of people know about us and want our services, so we should be able to take this to funders as well." And this is about 5 years and 3, 4 organizations. And they dropped out because they said they were overwhelmed with requests for support rather than funding, which was very interesting for me. But that means, at least in terms of brand presence and awareness, people found out about it.
It does work, and that's actually what we find running the Google Ad Grant is it's more effective at reaching people in need typically instead of flat out asking for donations. In fact, they don't even spend a lot of the time, or they're very minimal. They don't perform on the grant program. You can run one, leave your budget, it will serve. Really what it should be doing is finding people in need and then running, which one in Davin's section, he talked about finding lower, less competitive angles, more unique, more emotional, more close to their heart, then get people in that pipeline. So get them to sign up for an email newsletter, tie them into the story, get them involved in events, get them something, right? And then you will actually get donations from them. If you want to run strictly donation ads, you may have to consider, and you want them to reach more people, you do have to consider running your own ad spend alongside.
I know you're within the Canadian sector market. I'm going to send out some LinkedIn connections because I'd love to invite you to a collective. They've got a few hundred, maybe a few thousand nonprofits within the UK on that. But let's say hello anyway. I'd love to say hello. That was one of the best presentations I've seen about before you even go down this road. This is the commitment because this is how you will grow. And that's something that I think they're missing. So that was really good. Thank you for that.
Appreciate it. Yeah. And we also work with with the US quite a bit. I'm familiar with that market. And this is something that we work on with nonprofits is we go in from the angle of, yes, let's get you the $10,000 a month. However, let's look at how you can use it fully because I'm glad you liked it. And that means a lot.
I've been to a few and I think you've set off the groundwork. This is not magic. You just got to work at it and it takes time. So that was good.
Yeah. And Davin's also been very instrumental in this. He's helped with a lot of getting grants up and a lot of things as well. So it's been a team effort.
Okay. I'll send you, I've sent Davin one, I'll send you one as well. LinkedIn.
Looking forward to it.
Looking forward to it.
Hey, so Mike had a question. So he's asking about forecasting for reach. Now, Google does have paid forecasting tools that you can use. And so this is where you have to be with the Google Ad Grant for accuracy. They're meant around for paid accounts typically. They're forecasting their average and a lot of it's paid. So with the Google Ad Grant, you can use tools. There's SpyFu. There's different ones out there. You can get volume. The Google Ad Grant, the best way to do it is just run it because the reach is entirely different. I've run nonprofit. I've run e-commerce. I've run LinkedIn and social, different industries. The Google Ad Grant is a very different program. And so the forecasting tools aren't as necessarily accurate, but they can give you a ballpark, maybe take a percent. They're a good idea to get volume of search. Just recognize that you likely won't get that full reach depending on how competitive it is. For example, donations with the grant money. If that answers your question, Mike. I don't know if you want to jump in on chat or jump in and you can video, it's up to you. Perfect. Yeah, if you have any questions, reach out to us as well. And we can help you forecast and align things and help you out. So
Okay.
this might be in. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Mike.
Sorry, I was just going to say I appreciate that. We run campaigns twice a year. We're a theater society that presents shows, so we need to get audiences. We have time to do things up. That's why I'm asking about the reach that we get. So thank you.
Yeah, you definitely have the reach. You can build up long-term reach. What you do is use it to fill your pipeline. So when the theater programs come up, you can send an email. You can do different things. You can have other ways to reach them. That's perfect. That's what you want. Mail outs, depending on your audience. That's the power of the nonprofit. If you have of this tool, you have time to build that pipeline months in advance. And we were going to just, we've covered a few things here. So we were talking in general about, let's just go to questions here. There's been a few things now. So I think we're going to go over something overall, but I don't quite remember anymore because it's been a lot of good discussion here. Does anyone have questions about the setup of their account? It's one of our main offerings, or where we usually start, if you're running them successfully, we can jump in and we can optimize and start running. A lot of requests have been to get them set up and then support for maybe 1 to 3 months. And because we found a lot of nonprofits, if you're going to be doing this in-house, just need a hand up. And along with that one, is anyone who here is currently running the Google Ad Grant, actually? Can you drop it in chat? I'd be curious. Okay. Maybe some people have hopped off. They had to get back to their day. I'm wondering. Okay. It's all right. We'll see. We'll see who's here. The recording's going out anyway, and the deck, so everyone will have access to it.
What do you think, team? Should we then wrap it up as we've run out of questions?
I'm good to wrap it up if everyone else is good, and a lot of value in here, and I'm sure it'll reach a lot more people. So I'm okay with that. Any final thoughts, Davin? Anything you want to add?
I'd like to add, if anyone's want to have a quick chat about their nonprofit or anything, we're open to chat. Just send us, book with us, and we're happy to talk.
I have George, a question regarding non-profit organizations which might qualify. Could they be like non-profit professional organizations, religious organizations, maybe learning organizations like seniors learning in retirement and so on? So as long as they, as you said, as long as they are registered with federal government, I mean the government of Canada, I guess, they are qualified?
I can answer this one for you. As long as you're not getting any government funding, there is a possibility you are eligible. I can't guarantee your situation you are, but there's a few guidelines as the previous slide I was saying is not a government entity or organization or get government funding.
I see. Okay. Thank you.
Actually have an ask on here. Maybe it's better after the recording, but I'll ask maybe Eli, does anyone know any good grant writers? I'm actually looking to connect with more because sometimes I have nonprofits ask me. And we can always discuss it off this after the recording in detail. It's actually other than that, I'm good to wrap it up. That was actually something, I'm sure there's going to be some great connections here, and that would help me.
I do have one more question. Just at the amount, it was the title of the seminar was $10,000 a month. Is that the value of the ads, or is that a monetary amount, actual dollars? How did that number get settled upon?
Those are credits. So Google gives you $10,000 essentially ad credits per month. $10,000 you can spend, which equates to $120,000 a year. You don't have to spend it all. You don't always. But you can spend up to $10,000 of ad spend. It's very powerful.
Gotcha. Okay, thanks. I just wondered how that number related. Thank you.
Yeah, that's the cap. You can spend up to that. And if you hit that, you might even be able to get up to 40 if you're consistently hitting that 10,000 level. one tip I got from one of my former co-organizers is that he uses Google Ad Grants in many of his grant applications to other organizations because there's always a line, who else is funding this project? And Chataway said, oh, actually, I know I'm going to probably spend about 20,000 in Google Ad credits over the next year. So he just writes that in. Google's going to support this if in-kind credits worth this value. So he just puts that line in as like the matching donors section for many of his grant applications.
That's brilliant. Thank you.
And Anne asked a question here. I'll respond to it. And Anne, if you want to jump in, you're welcome to ask any more. I'm going to type in chat as well, though. No, so it's a $10,000 credit at no cost to you. Basically, they're giving you $10,000 of ad spend, if that makes sense. It's not credit you have to pay back. It's being provided in kind, which is why we wanted to put this on, because it's every nonprofit who can should be using this. Even if whatever you can spend from it, you don't always spend the 10. Sometimes it's a challenge, but anything you can spend out of it, you should be using it. It's a tool and that's where we have all the programs to help and that you saw on checklists. And we have some more detailed ones as well. We've worked with the US. We also work with the US nonprofits. So this is Canadian, but if anyone knows the US, we do work with US nonprofits as well. We've done that quite a bit. So we are familiar with that space. A little different, but very similar.
If you do put out $5,000 of your own money, you're going to get first party by Google. The Google Ad Grant put secondary, as we already mentioned a few times. So it's a different strategy as you're using the money.
Interesting. I didn't know that. So you could, let's just say you had a $5,000 annual budget. You could put $500 in a month as credit over, combine it with your Google.
Yes. And then what you could do with that money is you put that towards donations directly, and you could be top of the list. Because you ask for donations directly if you ask through the Google Ad Grant, you get placed secondary through all other organizations. But if you're paying for it, Google puts you first.
And you might as well just say at least even $100 a month is great, right? Yeah, because it tips the balance. Okay.
Larger organizations do run their own ad spend on top of this. It's and that's how they do their reach. The Google Ad Grant itself is only search and maps right now. So yes, you can run PMAX, which helps with the AI getting more audience signals. Ideally, if you have some budget, even if you just ran YouTube, for example, for brand awareness on paid, that alone, that's very powerful. Stuff like that. It can be very strategic. It doesn't have to be a lot of ad spend, but as long as it's strategic.
We probably need to have a chat, but I just wanted to put this out there as well. And I don't know, please forgive me, I don't know the other people on this webinar, and I don't know the size of your organizations, but I think one of the things that I see people struggle with, passionate people with great projects, is that, let's just talk the UK here, and England and Wales, you have the Charities Commission, and you can see what the revenue of these organizations are. In England and Wales, there are 150,000 nonprofits who are earning in revenue funds £5,000 and more. Okay. But the top 1%, I think, and then you got another 150,000 who are on the list, but they actually are not exactly registered, because in order to be fully registered, you have to have £5,000 or more. But there's another 150,000 in England and Wales who run on between 0 to 5,000. And that's where some of them have got this problem, because they haven't got pipeline. They don't know how to go out. Google Ad Grants would be amazing for them, but they're struggling even to put that $100 spend, because they can't justify it to their trustees to say, we're going to take a chance here and let's see where this goes, and are risk averse, and you know what it's like. So it's a very interesting conundrum in a way. You can't grow without spending, but then you're not growing because you're not spending either, or using the tools that are available. Let's have a chat. We'll
have a chat. So we run into that with organizations. It's a balancing act and building out the plan with them.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. That was really good.
You're welcome. Okay. Anyone else have some questions here? Yeah. We have about 5 more minutes, is it? Yeah, roughly. Looks like. Let's hang out here and wait in case. Is there anything in the present? So is there any, so in everything presented beside the Google ad grant then, I'd be interested to know is what stood out the most for you, or what area you see the most opportunity? Because we covered a lot, and some of it, there's a lot of moving pieces in there. What stood out to everyone outside of the ad grant itself?
This is George Ian. I have a question. Daryl and Davin, thank you very much for presentation. Now, do you support also, you consult with the nonprofit organization, help them out to go through this process?
Yeah, we do. I'll let Davin speak on that.
Yes, we do. From the beginning to end, we can definitely support with that. But we
Okay.
definitely book a call on that and figure out first if you're eligible, sitting where you're standing at, go from there.
Oh, I see. Does, let's say, your cost, you are non-for-profit, I guess you have a profit, you should be making somehow money. Do you charge, could your cost be part of this Google contribution as well?
No,
No.
this credit is only towards ads. What you're talking about is a foundation, which you have to pay for yourself.
Okay. So 10,000 is only for advertising on the Google website.
Yes, think of it this way. You are responsible for your SEO. You are responsible for your foundation. Once you have a strong foundation and Google trusts you, they're willing to give you money. But you have to do the work in order to get the money.
Okay. Thank you.
And there's a lot of great TechSoup presentations on this, and Eli would actually be able to answer that for about 2 minutes. Where can people watching this find where all the discounts are on? Sorry, maybe it's Good Stack now. It's changed so many times. Apologies, my brain. Yeah, where would they find all the discounts to help them build this foundation? It sounds like that would help people out.
These are good questions, and the answer is a side project I've been working on for a little while that's not quite ready to launch. But in the meantime, you're just going to have to spend a little bit of time in Google. Honestly, what I just do is product name, nonprofit discount, throw it into Google every time. And that's where you're going to start from. High level, though, obviously the TechSoup catalog is going to give you the broadest version of that. And of course, GoodStack has got a good number of things there as well, because they're doing a similar kind of thing where they do some validations and support for companies that want to open up their nonprofit and discounted programs. But is there one great place to say, like, where's that WordPress plugin? And I'm looking for forms, like, which of those are charity discounted? No good story for how that can easily be found or vetted. Right now, it's just you crossing your fingers and Googling.
I will say HubSpot has one. I was hunting around on names for CRMs. There's a bunch of great nonprofit specific, and HubSpot isn't for everyone, but they do offer 40% off it. I did have to hunt that one down. I don't know if it's on TechSoup.
Yeah, it has been through TechSoup, and I'm in it every day as one of those users accessing HubSpot through the discount.
There you go. Okay. Eli, you answered that. This is a whole other discussion, so I'll stop because you did answer it exactly. There's lots of ways to build this foundation and save money while you do it, and then access this money. There's lots of resources.
Fabulous. Then with that, Davin and Daryl, thank you so much for coming and giving people this great 5-step process around what they need to do to get themselves set up and ready. Thanks so much for the offer of being available to people for any kind of follow-up questions. And everyone, your recording and slides should follow through probably tomorrow morning, realistically, and we'll take it from there. In the meantime, everyone have a lovely day, and thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
And look forward to seeing you all use what we've learned, and hope to see you all spending on the ad grant.